Well, again, this is Nathan with Nailed Productions. So I'm just going to try to go directly to YouTube to try to help, and we're going to talk about routing between two SQ units with this kind of setup. I saw this on the Facebook user group. If you haven't joined, you probably should, because there's a lot of good, helpful tips and a lot of people get answers real quick. Otherwise, Allen Heath support, all that kind of good stuff. I'm just gonna go off the cuff, and while I've said I wasn't gonna edit in the past, I really am not this time. Got home pretty late from a job site. Client needed some video stuff taken care of. Anyways, hope you like the content. Like, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Take care. Okay, so to get into this, we've got couple DX168s into an SQ7 and an S-Link card going to another S-Link card into an SQ5 for broadcast, and that SQ5 is going back to ME1s, I think it is. We're just going to say these are all ones, and those then go to the stage, for the band and whatnot. So probably another, cable going back kind of deal. And helpful stuff is go to Allen Heath's SQ series, not software, documents, and then there's S-Link connections, quick start guides, DX system guide. So here's a DX68 guide. You can see some of the setups and whatnot that they do. One of the ports to DX32 and the S-Link port to DX 168, 1 and 2, or the DX hub to a bunch of them, so on and so forth. So you can kind of get some ideas about how to do this, some thought processes. You can also integrate DX 168 boxes with DLive and SQ at the same time, and there's all sorts of stuff. So there's that. And then so here's some configurations. You can go through this yourself. I pulled a couple quick ones just to kind of get the ideas rolling and whatnot. So this is a good document. Feel free to go through it on your own. Personally, I always recommend a GX4816 rack for stage anymore, because, and then maybe a 168 if you need channels elsewhere instead of 168 boxes. And the main reason is because you get the ME out, and that way you don't have to do any strange things. It's just one cable, it goes up to the GX4816, and now you have your ME personal mixing outputs, and you got plenty of inputs on stage, and it's a lot, to me, it's a lot simpler, easier, better of a deployment. Than if you were to do something strange like what we're doing here, but this isn't that strange, perfectly doable. Let's see. So one thing that I suggest, so we're not overly complicate it, and it's probably going to get really confusing, but to get to the crutch of routing is there's a lot of information here, and you might see it. So basically above this line is the front of house setup, and then below this line is the broadcast setup. And so I just kind of maxed it out complication wise. It's not even really fully done. I really just wanted to get this video up so and give you guys some ideas. But basically, I would say you should do this one for one for every single input channel and every single output channel for both the front of house and broadcast mixer, as well as every single input and output socket. And the main difference between a socket and an input or output is that a socket is a physical location. So if you look at a DX168 or the back of a SQ5, 6, 7, that's a physical socket. A input or output processing channel is the DSP, the FPGA doing the work. That's not a socket. And the main thing that is great about the SQ series is that processing channels, whether they're inputs or outputs, can be separated from sockets. And then that allows tie lines to be able to tie sockets to other sockets without using up. Keith has a great webinar video that he talks about this. It's on their Facebook page. You could probably find it on, I think there is, it's going to be annoying. They have a new page on their website. I think it's resources. Case studies, technical sheets. Ah, gosh. I probably shouldn't have done this because now I don't know where it is. They have a whole page for all of these. Yeah, here we go. Analyze sessions. So you're looking for this, analyze sessions, and then you can see all these things. Here's all MixWizard sessions, and the rewatch Facebook live stream. So you click on this, and then it would go there, and then you can watch. I think Keith's is. I think it's in here on the studio setup. So there's some more information. Okay, back to this. So this is a lot of information, and the reason why it's a lot of information because I really think that writing down and taking your time is useful. So we're going to go over this Excel. It's a little different format, but this would be like a one-to-one. So you've got a snake channel. This would really be a socket. This is kind of older for if I had an analog snake, and it's also for my DLive. But so this is really your socket. And the name for it, and like the description, and maybe the name of the person, and then what the mic or DI is, and then assign the group. And then over here is like the Waves IO socket. So if it was going out and coming back in on a socket, it would be, you know, patched to one of these places. So I only, you know, I'd only wanted to process 30 of these. I didn't want to process like my overchan channels or my triggers or whatever. And then the mix processing channel is what channel on the mixer is doing the processing. And then this is just kind of like a list of the order of. God, my cat keeps biting my foot. Stop it, Echo. He's nice. He's just playing. Where was I? Okay, so this is just a list of inputs, the order that they might be in. Here's some groups, some DCAs. I've been playing around with this. It's not perfect. It's not ideal. But you can kind of see the gist of maybe how to do this. And so mixed processing channel, you'd have 1 through 48. This was a DLive, so I had, you know, way more input processing channels. I will go ahead and give y'all this to y'all. It's not too bad. I don't feel like there's anything proprietary in it. And then I do a stage layout, so I have, you know, some basics of just kind of knowing where people go. Okay, so there's that. And then back to this. So this is like a routing diagram kind of deal. So what we've got here is mixer input processing channels, mixer outputs. So these are the processing outputs. And then you've got your physical socket outputs. And the socket inputs are here. So there's multiple places that you'll see sockets. Like I said, I just threw this together in the last hour, and I haven't really. Let me check OBS, make sure I'm recording and everything. Okay, yeah. I haven't really gone through this to make sure that, you know, everything. I mean, like socket. This should, you know, I would organize this and whatnot better. But I want to get this video out there just to see if I could be helpful, useful, whatever. Okay, so. Oh no, I like it like that. Okay, anyways, sorry I got distracted. Okay, so we're going to do a theoretical. We've got these two 168s. We've got our little setup here. We're going to feed some wireless mics into the SQ at broadcast because stop biting me, please. Thank you. Oh, I guess he wants to go out. I shut the door, so better for recording or whatnot. Anyways, and he wanted out. Anyway, so we've got some mics coming in here, and we're going to feed them back up through the S-Link into here so that we can use them as input channels, and then we're going to feed some of these sockets in the 168s back through here into what are we going to do? Oh yeah, say there was wireless in-ears hooked up to the SQ, because I'm thinking like the SQ is in a different room, or it's behind the rack, or wherever. Actually, it'd probably be better if you fed the inputs up to here and then they came out at the SQ7. Anyways, some different ideas that you could do things. And it's all possible, and all with one Cat5 between the two, and then one to the MEs. Okay, so let's kind of get into this. I'm going to let's do the easy one first, because the easy one to me is pretty simple. Now, all this is not rocket science. It might be difficult to grasp, and that's not a problem, but it's not like we have to do any math. We don't have to do any, well, we have to do a little math, but it's just addition, so can't be that difficult. Okay, so I don't have it all set up and whatnot, so I can't really show you on the board. I mean, I do have the thing, the camera's rolling, but anyways, I digress. So we're talking about the S-Link. So we've got some input sockets, and then we've got some S-Link sockets coming in, and this is a DX, and we've got our I/O port. So this MixPad is our front of house mixer. So our front of house mixer is going to have, I guess I should flip back to this. Okay, so our input front of house, we're saying is inputs 1 through 8 are drums, either 16 instruments, vocals, OT, over the ear, labs, extra, whatever, computers, and then maybe we're gonna run some FX into some groups or something, or groups, so that we can have extra ones. And we're gonna use the SQ5 effect engines for front of house, because we're Mr. Front of House and we like lots of FX engines because we're stingy or whatever. I'm trying to make a joke. It's not going over well. Okay, so we're going to source inputs 1 through 8 from DX number 2. That's this guy. We're going to source that 9 through 16 from this guy. So say that's your bass and your loop and click and stuff. And then we're going to source our other instruments from DX168 number 1. That's this guy. But we're only going to use the first 8 channels. So here's the sockets and here's the patch number. So double checking this because I'm tired while I'm doing this. Yeah, this should be I don't know why it starts at 17. Yeah, 25 through 32. And okay, so the reason why this is like this, so this would be 1 through 9, and if we had a second one, it would be 9 through 16. And the reason why is number 1 takes up 1 through 16, and number 2 is 17 through 32. So if you want the inputs from number 2 to be, which I consider number 2 probably is going to be drums and number 1 is going to be other things, then they're going to come in on inputs. And yes, I am needlessly complicating this, but I'm trying to make a point that you can do some really fancy things if you just think through things a little bit and lay it out in a Excel or on a sheet like this or whatever. And so I'm sourcing DX168 1 through 16 to this mix processing channel 1 through 16. And so you just kind of think things through and then you can get stuff done. Okay, so we're going to pull up this guy. What we want to do is patch. So inputs 1 through 8 are going to be drums, and that's going to be 17 through 24. So if we go to inputs, we're going to do input channels. We're going to go to DX because this is the normal S-Link. These are local USB, and this is the I/O port. So that's going to be our sends to and returns back from the SQ5. So channel 1 is going to start at 17. So this is drums 1 through 8, and then so it's socket 1 through 8 on the DX2, and it is patch number 17 through 24. And then 25 through 32 is going to be then again the next set of 8 channels, which we decided were going to be instruments. Like I said, you would really do this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but I didn't want a giant list, and I didn't want to spend that much time on all this. Okay, so the next thing is, this is the kind of easy part. We'll get into the ME routing and whatnot. Okay, so the next thing is starting at 17, we want to source them from the first DX, and we're going to source 17 through 24. So we only need up to 24. So we're going to depatch these guys, and if you're on the console, you can hit the what is it? Oh man, I wish I could remember it now off the top of my head. There was some fancy thing where you could hold down something and it would and the wheel would make it go. Forget how to do that, but anyways. Like I said, I'm not going to edit this. I'm not going to worry about all those little extra things. Okay, so we've got some up to, yeah. Okay, so 1 through 16 is now sourced from DX168.2, and then 17 through whatever is sourced through DX168, 17 through 24. DX168.1, only the first 8 channels. The next 8 channels we're not going to worry about for now. And then what we want to do next is we want to source our local channels and go through 25 through. So for here, that we patched up to 24. So 25 is the next input channel. So we'll start at 25, and we want to use, whatever. So 25 through 40 is going to be our local I/O on here on the excuse me, I'm a little tired. So on the SQ7, the front of house mixer, but actually we said that we wanted a few channels sourced from the SQ5, so maybe we go back and do those later. And then we have some stereos in, something like that, right? Yeah, okay, so then we have some stereo ins from the local, and that's that. Okay, and then we have our outputs, and so we've got our inputs patched. Now we can go to we've got our inputs patched into the into the front of house mixer. We can do things. Now what we need to do is we need to send those same inputs to the DX port, or the S-Link card on the I/O port. It could be a Dante card, could be a Waves card, it doesn't matter. The benefit of the S-Link card is that you get 128 channels. So this is going to be the same thing, but we're going to make sure that we think about the patching. So like I said, Keith has some good videos on thinking about this, but remember the top is always kind of the sockets on the console, and the left is always where it's going to or coming from. I think that's how he puts it. So you've got this is an output socket, so we're going to IO port and we're sourcing from somewhere on the console. So if we're sourcing from the S-Link port, then we're sourcing from the DX168s. So if we want channel 1 on the IO port, which would be correspond to the kick, or the first channel on the SQ7, our front of house mixer, then we need to source it from S-Link 17, because that's the same S-Link 17 as if we go to inputs and here. That is this same one. So we go tie lines back here, we do 17 through whatever, and then we do S-Link 1 through 16 so this is DX168.1 and this is DX168.2, and we're going to start with 17 through whatever. That puts our channels in order. And then we're going to continue on with starting at 33. Well, we don't need the S-Link port anymore. We need the local port. So 33 through whatever is going to be all of the local inputs. And now if I go back to here, we're not that one, this one. What we're doing is we're looking at this. So we're saying I want to source my DX168s and I'm going to IO port 1 through 32. I want to source my local inputs that are 33 through 62, and my direct outs are this. So you get 128 channels to play with, so you got plenty of output power. So we can just send tons of outputs from our front of house. When I say outputs, I don't mean, it could be anything. It could be tie lines from local inputs, or it could be outputs. We can send those to this IO port. So our IP direct outs, we're saying we want our direct outs, and I wouldn't limit it. Like, just do all the ports and everything that you need, unless you're running out of 128 channels, then that's different. But 63 through 110, and the reason why is because then when we're on the SQ5, the broadcast mixer, he can grab whatever thing he wants. All he has to do is consult this chart and say, oh, direct outs is 1 through 48. I want, channel, so whatever front of house channel 48 is, I go to 110 on my S-Link port. And so I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but if we take IP direct outs, it's going to be, 63 through whatever. So IP direct outs, IO port, I kind of already have them going, but it'd be 110 would be the very last one, so 48 would be 110, right? So that's kind of what you'd end up with, and it would start somewhere here around here at 62, and these would be still input channels actually. Okay, so there's that, and then we can source our mix channel. So we can go to mix outs, and we'll just go to, we need to go to 111, so that's the next channel. So go over to 111, so that's gonna be group, do a few of these. We could even send rack FX outputs, monitor outputs. We decided those are gonna be 121 through 126. So scroll all the way over 121 through 126, Okay, so I'm not going to do this for every single thing. You could send even the input, let's see, tie lines, USB, the input USB channels to the IO port. And you could save this as a patch using a little library thingy. That'd be this thingy. And then you can, and actually I don't think it would save the tie lines, so that might be a scene that you would want to save. Pretty sure that's the scene, yeah. And then you'd block everything except for tie lines, which I think you can do. Global filter, other. Yeah, so there's an IO port patch on the other on output sockets. Mix inputs. Well, that's why I probably should do more research and do a different video on that. But this is just to get you through. Okay, so now we have our inputs. So that's pre high pass filter into our IO port. So either from local S-Link or USB. And then we have our outputs, our direct outputs. You can select a global spot for your IP direct output. That's under, I'm gonna make myself forget. So you can pick any of these: post preamp, high pass, whatever. I should read it. Post preamp, post high pass, post gate, post insert, return, post PEQ, post compressor, post delay. The only problem with Allen Heath boards that I think is that this is global. I think this should be per channel, but anyway, so you can, so and there's, you know, all sorts of stuff that goes into that. I'm trying to wrap this up because this is a long video already, but honestly, there's a lot that goes into it, and my wife wants me to come to bed. Okay, so now we've got a ton of inputs, quote unquote, into our broadcast mixer, and we have 128 of them. So if we go to our inputs and we go to our I/O port, this is where we're getting all of our inputs. So you can just go patch, hey, on input 1 through whatever, I want just 1 to 1. And so that would be, you know, 1 through 48. And that's going to be, if I go down to 48 on here. Yeah, did I do that right? I can zoom in. Being silly. Okay, so, you know, 1 through 48. Input processing channels. So think of this. Input sockets are coming in, and input processing channels are receiving it from the I/O port, which is receiving it from the SQ7. And you just do the exact opposite. So the I/O link is receiving 32 channels, the first 32 channels, and are receiving the next 24. So if you wanted something other than the 16, let's see, so it'd be 32. Yeah, 16, that'd be 48. So I should really say 1 through 16, right? So the 2 DXs and the 116 channels on the locals, if you wanted something other than that, then you'd have to skip some. So say I wanted stereo 1, 2, and 3. Well, I wouldn't use big I/O port 47, 48. Why? Because 47, 48 are really channels 15 and 16 locally on the SQ7. So really I'd do this one. So if I wanted each of these, it'd be, you know, like this, right? So that would be the last 4. Okay, so moving on. And this is why it really helps to have this kind of list here, so you can see what each thing is doing and why it is there and all that kind of good stuff. So this would be 1 through 32, 33 through 62. If I wanted direct outs, okay, so now here's where I get into, I want either sockets or direct outs into my ME system. So now I've patched everything on here 1 to 1. You know, I'm having fun, I'm mixing my thing, but I need my I/O port inputs that I'm getting from front of house to send to my ME units. Okay, so ME units are under outputs and ME. So we're going to send stuff to this thing. So we can either send them from the local, which we don't want to because all of this is local. IP direct outs, well, we might be using our direct outs for something or that is not front of house processing. So, you know, that's going to be different. Our monitor output, you know, this is a broadcast mixer. So none of these are really useful, but we can use our tie lines. And so we're going to go to our I/O port and our ME. And so we're going to pull from our I/O port different channels. So this one, that's going to be kick. That's going to be snare or kick, kick, snare, snare, whatever you want, right? Okay, so that's our first 4 channels. And I'm kind of going fast but I hope you guys kind of see what it is. Over here, I would say, you know, this is I/O number 1 through 8. So you'd have the socket number of the unit and then the I/O number that's going to be. So, and you're going to choose whether this is, you know, this is, I'd probably have another column and I'd decide whether I want it to be a direct out, a mix, or a input channel, input socket. And then, okay, so we do that. Now we've got our I/O port. So we need say 5 is whatever. So this is all drums, right? Yeah, so say 9 is our bass. But we don't want to source the bass from the pre-high pass, input. What we want to do is we want to grab it from our direct output. So we're going to have to skip and go down to, well, where do we put our direct outputs? So I'll scroll over here. Let's go look. Direct outputs 1 through 48. We put them on 63 through 110. So if we want bass, so that's going to be 63 plus 9, 72. So we're going to go to, let's see, this SQ. No. So we're going to say 9 on the MEs is bass, and we're going to go to 72 on the S-Link port. So that's going to be our direct output for bass channel 8. So it's be so it's going to be input 8 here, or 9, sorry. And then that is going to be sourced from our DX168. And 9 is going to be 9 on DX168 too. Hope that's helpful. Hope that's useful. You can also then from tie lines, you could say I want to, and so okay, so that kind of wraps up getting into the MEs, I think. And then I was talking about sending stuff from the SQ5 back to front of house. So if we take a, say a local input socket, we go to tie lines, we need the IO port. Yeah, okay, so tie lines, we're going to take the local input ports and we're going to send them to our IO port. So this is going to be a send back and return. And then say we want 1 through 16. And now front of house mixer, if we go to the IO port, can now pick up 1 through 16 as an input. So say you had wireless or whatever. So now 1 through 16 is wireless. So say just 1 through 8 were wireless. So we did the last 8 channels or whatever. There we go. That'd be 33. Okay, there we go. Last 8 channels are now sourced from the out port, which are sourced from the SQ5's local channels. So now we can, send and return inputs to both places. One last thing I was thinking of is, say you have the ME1s on stage and you had transmitters in the broadcast room for some reason for in-ears or what have you. It probably made more sense if they were in the SQ7 at the front of house. But just say they were in it. Nah, I don't want to deal with that because I've already kind of explained how to route things. Yeah, so say you had an ME1 and you wanted to send it to an in-ear pack, and the in-ear pack was at front house. Okay, so you can take an ME1, go into the sockets on, so remember our number 1, the last 8 ports weren't used. We didn't go anywhere with them. Well, we went into S-Link, but we didn't go into the SQ's input processing. And that's great, because now we can go directly, and the tie lines can actually send signal and not use up input processing. So we're going to go to our inputs, actually tie lines, sorry, and our inputs are coming from the S-Link port, and our outputs are going to the local port. So we're going to source S-Link port 1 through 8 is in use, but 9 through 16 is not. So we're going to say we have, there we go. So now what we've done is we said, I want my S-Link port, which is an input. These are all inputs. to go to a local output on the SQ7, and that's output 1 through 9. So I think that is kind of everything that I want to talk about. I'll also put this in the description. Give me some time, maybe tomorrow, because I need to go to bed and go to work tomorrow. And this was a really long video, and I'm not going to trim it up at all. So anyways, I hope this was helpful and enlightening and all those good things. Like, subscribe, let me know in the comments below what you think. I hope this blesses and helps you. Take care.